We're right in the middle of a discussion about the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda regarding how many stands they are. We saw in the Mishnah, according to Rabbanan, there are two stands because you have the blood of the pod and the blood of the sa'ir. And the Kohen Gadol has to sprinkle from both of these bowls in the Kodesh Kodeshim, and then he goes out and does it in the Kodesh towards the Parochet. Now he has to do the pod first and the sa'ir second. So he has to be holding it in one hand and he needs his finger for the other hand. So he has to put the other one down in the meantime. So when he's switching from the pod to the sa'ir and back, what does he do? According to Rabbanan, there's two stands, one for the pod and one for this blood of the sa'ir. According to the Biuda, however, he says no, only one stand. That's what he says in the Mishnah. He doesn't explain why. So we're trying to figure out why. Isn't it more convenient to have two stands? Then he could put it down. If he needs to do something, he can. And then he could pick up the other one. According to the Biuda, he has to pick one up first, be holding them both, and then put one down, and then transfer his hands. So why does the Biuda say that? Okay, we offered one possibility. The one possibility was that the Biuda does not believe in labels. If you put a sign, you could put 10 signs up. People don't read signs. People don't read labels, and he's going to make a mistake. And so even if you write on the bowl or on the stand, this is sa'ir, this is pod, see, he's not going to look at the label and he's going to get mixed up. Once he puts them down, he's not going to remember which one was which, and he might make a mistake and pick up the other one. Whereas if you have only one stand, then he is right there. He has to switch. So he's doing it on the fly. And so there's no way to forget. You just pick the one up. So automatically you put the other one down. That was our proposal, that he doesn't believe in labels. And we tried to bring an offer of proof that he doesn't believe in labels from a different case in Shekalim, where it says there were 13 collection boxes and they had labels on them. And two of them were for birds, pairs of birds. According to Chachamim, one of them was for chovah, someone that needs to bring birds because they're a zav or yoledet, and the other one for nidava, someone who just says, I want to give a free will offering and give them. That's Chachamim. Say there's one for this and one for that. The Biuda says no, right? They're both for nidava. We cannot have different collection boxes for chovah. And so we offered the suggestion that, see, here's another proof that he doesn't believe in labels. Even though all these collection boxes are labeled, the Kohen is emptying them out. He might just mistake one and the other, or which one did I get this from? And then you're going to mix up a chovah and a dava, and that's not a good thing to do. So far, as we have a proof, yes, he doesn't believe in labels. The problem with this is that it doesn't actually work for the collection boxes because you still have two, and one of them is going to be for pigeons and one for doves. So still, you might get mixed up between those two. So you see that the problem is not with the labeling. The problem with the chovah and nedava is a different one. The halacha is that if someone chooses an animal or gives money for a hatat and dies, that person dies, you can no longer give it as a sacrifice. If it's an animal, you got to let it die and burn it outside. If it's money, you got to destroy the money, throw it into the Dead Sea. And so here we have a collection box. We know some guy put it in the box and died, and now we don't know which is his. So according to Chachamim, they have no problem. They say easy solution. We'll take any 4 coins at random, and we'll say these we designate as the ones that he gave. We don't really know that these are the ones he gave, but retroactively we will designate these as such. And you take those and you destroy them, and the rest of it you can offer no problem. But a Biuda, maybe he says no because that would be a better explanation. If it's because of labels, then it wouldn't make sense why you could have one for doves and one for pigeons. But according to this opinion, right, this would explain why he would be okay with that. Maybe he's fine with labels. Yeah, labels are a good way of distinguishing. Right? And here, the problem here is that even if I can distinguish, I know what's in this box. I know that 4 of them are no good. And he does not allow retroactive designation. If you didn't write your name on it, we don't know whose it is. And so he has no berera. And so therefore, we're left without a solution because according to this, the Biuda likes labels. Labels are fine. So label the 2 stands and put one for pod and one for sa'id, and you'd be totally fine. So we have to answer that question. Before we answer that question, we're just going on a tangent of the Biuda and berera. Is this true that a Biuda does not does not follow the principle of retroactive designation or clarification. Minelan, how do we know that? So we're going to look at a couple of other cases. These are always interesting cases of this retroactive mechanism. So here's the case. הלוקח יין מבין הכותיים ערב שבת עם חשיכה עומד ואומר שני דוגין שאני עתיד להפריש הרי זהן תרומה. Let's say someone buys wine from a kuti, a Samaritan. See, if you buy wine from a non-Jew, that's a problem because then it's not kosher. If you buy it from a Jew, then you get to other laws of maybe he already took teruma maaser, his amaretz, whatever. But we're talking about a kuti. Kuti, you're allowed to buy their wine, but we assume that they did not take teruma or maaser. Now you bought it on Erev Shabbat after it got dark. You're not allowed to take teruma or maaser. Sarten, Arab 10, we say it every week in right, what's before it gets dark, you say Sarten, make sure to take maaser before Shabbat starts. Because when Shabbat starts, you can't mitaken. You're taking something that was unedible and now making it edible. You can't do that. However, this guy's in a bind, so we have a loophole for him because he wants to be able to drink this wine on Shabbat. So here's what he does. He says the 2 lugim, he has, let's say he has 100 lug, right? So 2 lugim that I will tomorrow separate, right? I'm going to do this after Shabbat. They will be teruma. So he's not doing it on Shabbat. He's saying tomorrow, whatever I decide to do, they will be separated from now. Asara maaser rishon, and then right to the teruma, you can do actually any amount, but typically you do 1 out of 50, so that's the 2. And then he has to take maaser rishon, which goes to the Levi. So we have a picture here. So it will really be 2. He only has a little bit for the teruma gedola, but you have a whole row here that would be for maaser rishon, and then tisha maaser sheni. Only need 9 for maaser sheni because it's a tenth of whatever's left. Since you already gave 10, so there's 90 left. So maaser sheni used to be on the 1st and 2nd and 4th and 5th years would be maaser sheni that he's supposed to take to the Yerushalayim and eat it there. And then so he does that. He doesn't actually move anything or separate because he's not allowed to do it on Shabbat. He just says, tomorrow when I separate, whatever I separate will be teruma. So then he can go ahead and drink. Umechel v'shoteh miyad. The word mechel has 2 possible interpretations. Mechel could mean to make chol. The maaser sheni, he can redeem it with money, right? Because it's yulafar, it's inconvenient. So you take a coin and you say, right, the value of this maaser transfers to the money. I'll carry that, which is interesting. According to this, which is Rashi's interpretation, you can do that on Shabbat, even though you're saying, well, it'll happen tomorrow, but you're saying it now. Rambam says mechel means to begin. Then you can go ahead, right? And shoteh miyad, you can go ahead and drink from now. So in other words, you didn't take teruma maaser. Right now, there's teruma all mixed up somewhere in there, but it's okay. Now, if after Shabbat, like, you have a problem and something happens to this and it goes down the drain, you're going to have a problem. But assuming that everything goes well, and after Shabbat, you didn't drink the whole thing, and there's still this amount left, so that will be designated, whatever is on the bottom of the cup. And that the Rebbe Meir. So you see, according to the Rebbe Meir, you can do a retroactive designation. So he holds that Berera is possible. However, here's the point: Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Osrin, Alma, and Berera. These other 3 rabbis say you cannot do this. Right? You can't go and say, I'm going to give it from now. I'm going to, whatever I designate tomorrow will be retroactively. They say it's not good. Perhaps the reason is because they do not have the principle of Berira. Joel?
Yeah, so but at the end of the day, you took something that you're not allowed to eat and you fixed it.
Yeah.
Isn't that the problem?
Yeah, but you didn't do it. You didn't do it. It's like on a timer. You didn't do it today. Right now, you're eating tebel. All right. So actually, you are potentially in a pickle. Someone comes and drinks the rest of it, right? Then you have sinned. You ate tebel. It's not good. But hopefully, you'll keep it on the side and not drink it. And then tomorrow, that will be designated retroactively. And so therefore, that eating of tevel will be undone. Oh, turns out, you know what? You were okay. It was fine.
Right. So the takana happens really when it actually got separated.
Yeah. It's like, you park at a meter and you get a ticket, and then you go back in a time machine and pay the ticket and pay the meter beforehand.
I got it.
You come back, right? This is a time machine issue. Okay, so therefore we see the Yehuda does not have Berera. Good. So this fits with what we said before with Shekalim. Hold on, we say, Mimai, is that's not the only explanation you could have. You could have another one. Dilma shaneatam kedekatane ta'ama. Amru lo Rabbi Meir, אתה מודה שמא ייבקע הנוד ונמצא שוטט בלים למפרע. אמר להם, לכשייבקע. No, over there, read the continuation of the Baraita. You'll see that they tell the Bimeir why they disagree. They say to the Bimeir, right, that over there's a different reason. The reason is given. They say to Bimeir, don't you agree that you should worry? Maybe the nod, the skin, the water skin that they would hold the wine in, the wine skin, maybe it'll get a leak, and then all the wine will come out, and you'll end up drinking tebel retroactively, right? In other words, something might go wrong. This is a very dangerous idea you have to be meir. Yeah, if it goes right, fine, but this is a problem. There's lots of laws. Actually, cooking or heating things up on Shabbat is similar to this. Let's say I take water and put it, next to the fire. So right when I put it, it doesn't get hot. It takes a long time. So I didn't violate anything right then. Only violates once I leave it there. So if I put it there, but take it away before, right, you could save yourself from a prohibition. But you don't put yourself in a dangerous situation like that. That's why they're against it. And the Bimir says, okay, when it breaks, let me know. Cross that bridge when it gets there, right? How often does it break? I'm not worried about that. Put it in a safe place, put a bowl around it, right? Make sure no one touches it. It's not just going to break. So it's just a matter of how much risk they're willing to take. But fundamentally, it sounds like the Bimir would be okay with it. So you know what? There's actually no problem. There's no proof from here that the Yehuda does not follow Berera. We have another reason why he disagrees. So instead, let's look at one more case. Ela miditane ayo. Ayo is the name of a sage. We saw this source already back in Masechet Eruvin. Ditane ayo. The Yehuda omed en adam matne al shene devarim kehad. Ela im ba lechacham lemizrach, erevo lemizrach marav, erevo lemarav. Aval dechan ulchan law. Okay, so the law of Eruv is that if you're in a city, you can go out 2,000 amot all around from the edge of the city. What if I want to go further? For example, what if I know there's going to be a famous speaker is going to come to town, the next town over, but the next town over is 4,000 amot away. So I can't walk there. Here's what I do. I take a meal, which is symbolically my place. Before Shabbat, I put it 2,000 amot on the east of the city. And that way, on Shabbat, I can walk that's my middle, and I can walk another 2,000 amot. Okay, that's all. Everybody agrees that that's allowed. Now, what if I'm not sure if the speaker is going to come to the town on the east or the town on the west, right? Well, what can I make? Can I say, listen, I don't know what's going to happen, but tomorrow when I find out, then I'll make two eruvs, one here and one there, and tomorrow, then I'll decide which one is going to be. So, Rabbi Yehuda says, you can't make two eruvim at the same time. Rather, if it comes to the right, you can make it to the right. If it goes to west, you can make it west. But here and there, no, you can't do that. So you can make an eruv, but you can't make a retroactive eruv, right? You can't make a thing that says, I'll decide tomorrow which one I want. Eruv, one of the laws of eruv, it has to be made during sunset. Wherever that is during sunset, that's where your place is. So you can't be in two places at one time. This is like a quantum physics problem, right? You could be in two states, the superposition of two states, until you open the box and you see that the cat is dead, right? And then retroactively, it turns out that must have been the case. So he doesn't like all this. So now, when regarding this case, we analyzed it before and we said, how come he can't do this way and that way? Because he doesn't believe in retroactive designation. So lemizrach u'ma'arav nameh and berera. Then the first case also, you should say it's no good. Because if he says, if the rabbi comes to the east, I'll make the one east. If he comes to the west, I'll make the one in the west. But that's also deciding after the fact, right? Whereas the second case we're assuming now is that the rabbi, maybe the rabbis will come to both places to speak, and then I'll decide tomorrow which one I'm in the mood for, right? Now, either way, you're retroactively designating. So either way, it's borer. So what's the difference between the first case and the second case? The first case is where the sage already came to that city. I just didn't find out which one it is. Before Shabbat, he was in that town. I don't know which one, but I make a condition, so that's fine. It's not retroactive. I happen to be that I have lack of knowledge, but it's not, and someone knows it, right? There is a reality on the ground. So I say, when before Shabbat starts, if that sage right now is in the east, then I want that one to be. If he's in the west, I want the left one to be. On Shabbat, someone will come and let me know, oh, listen, the lecturer, he came to the city on the east. That's fine. It's not retroactive. That means that that's the condition that I set to begin with. That's the one that automatically set in because the condition knows, right? Even if I don't know. What you can't do is say, oh, both speakers are going to come. I'll decide tomorrow which one I want now. That's no good. Okay, so that's the conclusion, and we see from that Rabbi Yehuda does not have berira. Since he does not have the principle of berira, that's why he does not think that you can have a collection box for chatat offerings that are chovah, because then if the person dies, we're not going to be able to get money and throw it out because it's all mixed up and we can't retroactively designate it. Okay, so now we have a good explanation for the collection boxes. What we're left with is no explanation for why Rabbi Yehuda thinks you need two different stands. Why can't you just put a label? We just said labels are fine. So what's the problem? So that means that there's no problem of writing. Writing is fine. And we see the collection boxes, they write on it. One for pigeons, one's for doves, and he's fine with that. So he holds that labels are reliable. So he can do the same thing with the stands. Yom Kippur Nameh Abed Terev Nichtob Alayu. So write it down on the bowls, on the stands, which one is which. Here's the answer. Mishum Chulshat Kohen Gadol Lavadates. Because of his weakness. It's Yom Kippur, he's fasting, he has to do all the avodah the whole day, a lot of stress, pressure. It's only the whole nation relying on you for the whole year. He's preoccupied, and therefore he might in fact make a mistake even with labels. So in general, labels are fine, but not with someone who's so busy and so weak. So for him, we need something extra. He really might get mixed up. Put one stand, and then that way he'll switch it and he won't make a mistake. Avery?
But does that mean? But so all the more he'll make a mistake now if it's not written. It's Ebsha. So it's much easier to make a mistake now.
No, it's part of the process. You know, when you switch something, right, I'm holding one thing, so I take the other one, put it down. It's 1 second. There's no pause in between, right? Whereas if two stands, I put it down, and then I walk around, whatever. I can, have my hands free. Then I come back. Wait, which one's which?
Which one is which?
Even if it's,
so that's why I say
labeled, they'll say, "Oh, I think it was that one." There's no possibility of mistake if you have only one. Or maybe a smaller possibility of mistake. Because after all, even without writing something, you can know which one's which because one is more, one is less. A bull is a lot bigger. There's a lot more blood of a bull than the city. Just look inside. Oh, this one's more full, right? And so if you're going to we assume that he's paying attention and he can pay attention to labels, even not labels, he pay attention to how much is in there. The point is that since he's weak, he might feel a little faint. He's not paying attention. So do it in a way that it's automatic, mechanical memory, so he won't make a mistake. Now, regarding this last point, which is a side point, that one is more blood, one is less. Maybe you'll say the bull, when you do shechita, you don't have to collect all the blood. Maybe you only collect some of it, and maybe in fact it would be an equal amount. And so that wouldn't be a good way to tell. אמר רבי יהודה, שוחט צריך שיקבל את כל דמו של פש, נאמר, ואת כל דם הפר ישפוך אל יסוד המזבח. The pasuk says you have to collect all of the blood, you have to pour all of the blood on the mizbeach. If you have to pour all of it, then obviously you have to collect all of it. So that's the halacha we saw before. Yes, the chetechila, you're supposed to collect all of it. I mean, if a little spills, b'diavad, it's okay. So yes, it's presumably it will have more. And even if you say, well, maybe some of it will spill and it'll be equal amount, nevertheless, just by looking at it, you could tell, because the blood of the goat is a more pale color, and the one of the bull is a deeper red. We saw that. Remember, the red of the bull is like the gold. The gold is colored red. He uses special reddish gold on Yom Kippur, like the bull. So you see here that truth is he can tell from, if not from the level of how much blood, the color of the blood will tell him, and you can add labels also, but nevertheless, all those he might miss because he's feeling faint. And so that's why we worry about his not paying attention. So it's better to have one stand, and then they'll switch him around. Okay, excellent. Now, next story. Amar yasa v'nicho al kan sheni sheba'echal natal dam apar v'niach dam hasa'ir. So one time there was a chazan. Nachet kameh means to go down. In those days, the chazan was not on a higher platform, but like mima amakim, he would go down. And there's this expression that means he was the chazan in front of Rava on Yom Kippur for Musaf, and he's saying the avodah. He didn't read the Takonanta because it wasn't written yet. So he's reciting the avodah, and he says Yasa. The kohen goes out, and nicho al kansheni. He puts it down on the second stand. That means two stands. He's following Chachamim, and then it says Natal dam hapad v'niach dam asayir. He took the dam hapad and then he put down dam asayir. Wait, the second phrase is following the Biyudah. If you have to take the dam pad first and then put the other one down, that's following the Meir. So he has a contradiction. Half of his tefillah is saying like Rabbanan, half of it is like the Biyudah. So you got to pick a lane. So that's what Rava tells him. Chadak Rabbanan vechadak Biyudah. Ema hiniach dam asayir venatal dam hapad. Rather, you should say he put down the sayir. That means there's two, and then he takes the one of the pod, right? In other words, switch the order around of this last phrase. So follow Rabbanan, and so you have two stands. We're going to follow the majority. That makes sense. Okay. Anyway, very interesting that they have a nice real story of an actual chazan, reciting it. Maybe then all have sidurim. He might be saying it by heart. Truth is, even our Mishnah transitions from Chachamim to the Biyudah and then goes on. So you might be quoting the Mishnah because the Mishnah itself has both voices in it. All right, and now we get to the next part of the Mishnah. Hizam mimenu ala parochet keneged ha'aron mi bachus. After he does the sprinkles in the Kodesh Kodashim, he's going to go to the Kodesh and sprinkle the blood on towards the parochet from outside. So let's learn. This is from the Sifra about this. Tenor Banan, v'chen yaseh lo'al moed. Ma tamud omar, keshem shemazeh lefnai v'lifnim, kach mazeh ba'echal. How do you know that you're supposed to sprinkle the blood also in the Kodesh towards the Parochet? Well, we learn it from here. Pasukim 14 and 15 are all talking about in the Kodesh Kodashim, right? Al penei hakaporet. And el mi bet la parochet. This is inside the Kodesh Kodashim. And the fnei hakaporet. Fine. But then you have it looks like a conclusion. But then it adds one more thing. Do this also for Hol Moed. What do you mean also for Hol Moed? It means the Kodesh, right? The whole one was for the Kodesh Kodashim. This is for the whole Hol Moed. Do the same thing. What's vechen? Do what? The same thing. What you did before in Pesukim 14 and 15, do it also in the Kodesh. That's how we learn this whole halacha. Good. So now it just explicates. Just like in the Kodesh Kodashim, you do 1 up and 7 down of the pod. So too in the Echal, 1 up and 7 down of the blood of the pod. Just like you did 1 up and 7 down of the Sayir, so too in the Echal, and you do it in that order. First pod, then Sayir. So you go outside, do first pod, and then Sayir. Okay, the Sifra continues and explains, Hashochen itam betoch tum'otam, right? The continuation of that pasuk to atone for Ol Moed, that is, abides within them in the midst of their uncleanliness. There's an interesting phrase, right? The people are unclean. It's not necessarily talking about ritual impurity. It's more like, it could be ritual impurity that they had all year round, and maybe they came into the Kodesh and they weren't allowed to, or maybe a kind of spiritual impurity that it's atoning for all their sins. So the Ol Moed resides with them, even though they are tameh. So this is an interesting phrase, and the subject of a dialogue between two people. So let's see this interesting dialogue. So the first Sifra says, "Afilu b'shat shehem tumeim shechina imahem." Even when the Jewish people are impure, the divine presence is within them. Again, this can mean either technically tameh, because we saw if everybody's tameh, they're allowed to do the avodah, or that even more figuratively, that even though Bnei Israel are sinning, Hashem never leaves us and is still with us. Okay, now here's the story. Amar le'ahu sadoki le'Rabbi Hanina. So here we have the word sadoki. In the Vilna Shas, it says sadoki, but in the manuscripts, which I didn't give you because they're all the same. I just want to double check. Oh, Sadoki. Yeah. In the Vilna Shas it says Sadoki. In every single manuscript, it has min, has the word min, not Sadducee. So why is there a difference? And I'm surprised that they didn't change it here, because in the Hebrew Steindels, they did change it. Okay, so here's what happened. The word is actually min because of Christian censors. Christians thought that whenever it says the word mean, it's referring to Christians. And when Jews living under Christian lands were subject, and the Christians didn't like that Jews are telling bad stories about them. So every time it says the word mean, the Jewish printers would take out the word mean and put something else instead, like Sadducee. Oh, we're talking about Sadducees, right? Other Jews. We're not talking about you. So that the Christian censors, I guess, were learned enough to say, okay, fine, then it's okay. Now the word mean can actually mean a lot of things. It can mean it means species, a type, an outsider, a heretic. So often it does mean Christians. And actually, I think in this case, it is in fact referring to Christians. Okay, the story doesn't really make any sense if it's talking about Sadducees. So let's read the challenge. אמר להסודקי לרבי חנינה, השתה ברי טמאים אתון, דכתיב טומאתה בשוליה. אמר לה, תחזה מה כתיב בהו, השוכן איתם בתוך טומאותם, אפילו בזמן שהן טמאים, שכינה שרויה ביניהן. So this heretic challenger says, look, you guys are all definitely impure. How do I know? It says in Echad tumata b'shuleha. In Echad, it's talking about the sins of the nation that are around her, like in Ida, and therefore you are rejected. Hashem rejected you, right? You're tamez. Hashem's not going to be with you. This makes sense if a Christian said it, because Christians believe in supersessionism. That's the belief that Hashem rejected the Jewish people because of their sin, and now replaced them with Christians. So that's the challenge. It really wouldn't make sense for a Sadducee. So he says back, no, come look at the pasuk, the one that we just read in Acharemot. Even when we are tameh, Hashem is still with us. So he's not saying, yes, we're all righteous, we're 100% good, but it doesn't matter. God will never reject us. He is with us in good or in bad. So it's a very good, rebuttal to that challenge. Okay, very interesting conversation, and I just want to do one more line because it's just to finish off the topic. So what we saw is that in these Pesukim, remember in 14 and 15, we saw 1 up and 7 down. It says the 7 down regarding the pod, and it says the 1 up regarding the Sa'id. And we made a hekesh. Oh, it says, look, here this says it next to it. So we learned that this is 7, also 7 down, and this is also 1 up. So that's all learned from hekesh. And now what we're doing is we're taking Pasuk 16 and says, V'chen yaseh, this is equal to that. So now you have a double equals, right? A equals B, and now B equals C. So this is a problem. Can you do this? Can you do a 2-step derivation? Not everybody thinks you can. So v'chi hadavar alamed behekesh chozer umelamed behekesh. You learn, let's say 7 down from the par to Sa'ir, and then from Sa'ir, now you're going to learn that to outside. You can't outside, which is also par and Sa'ir. You can't do double step. Hi hemenu davar acherhu v'la havehekesh. No, don't call this a hekesh. This actually we're learning it from itself and another thing. In other words, is like this. We're learning the 7 down about pod itself. So transfer that itself, that's explicit. So transfer that. It's only 1 step to learn that for the pod on the outside. And let's say it's only 1 step. Since we're learning it about itself, it's not like this whole thing is a hekesh from a whole totally different korban. they were learning it from itself. We're just comparing these two internally, and then so it's from itself and also a hekesh. Since it's also about itself, so it's okay. All right, fine. That's according to one opinion. That's according to someone says we don't call that a hekesh. That's like direct. But the one who says no, even though it's said regarding here and in the same context you're learning from here and the one next to it, and that is called a hekesh, so then it's still no good because I know you're learning half of it from its own context, but half of it from a different context, and then you're transferring all that to the outside, so it's still called a hekesh of a hekesh. So we have two answers that are similar. Mekomotu de gamre mehadadeh. Now what we're learning is the place. Whatever you did in Kodesh Kodashim, do in the Kodesh. Just transfer the whole thing, right? We're not transferring this thing is the Sa'id from outside is like the Sa'id from inside, which is like the pod from inside. No, just say the whole place goes from one to the other, so it's okay. Or we're learning it all in one step. You told me about the pod that's inside is 7. In one step, I'm going to learn both that the Sa'id inside and the Sa'id outside is also going to be 7 down. So just we assume that it's all one step, and that way we resolve the problem of deriving something from another derivation. Baruch Adonai l'olam, amen ve'amen.